Welcome to another episode of Pakistan on a Plate. My name is Neelofer Afriki Qazi. Those who know me realize my weakness has always been confectionery. I love desserts. Desi desserts or mithai, I like. Gulab jamun, especially made at home, I love. Soft pure barfi is also nice, if not made too sweet. The khoya and milk should be perfectly blended. Halwas, nothing like a dal ka halwa in the winter. But to be honest, I prefer the European style desserts and recipes. These desserts have been in the subcontinent for a long time. Biscuits began to come into our confectionery landscapes with the British. Thus, after 500 years, I think we can safely say they are part of the Pakistani confectionery landscape. The oldest bakery in South Asia is right here in Lahore. I discovered it while walking around the old parts of Lahore. Let's go find out what there is from that time. Assalamualaikum Mokum Saab.
वालेकुम सलाम, कैसी हैं आप?
अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह. आप जरा बता सकते हैं इस बेकरी की तारीख और कब बना, क्यों बना?
ये जी पहली प्रोफेशनल बेकरी है सब कॉन्टिनेंट की. मेरे दादाजी ने इसको कायम किया था, तो ये मोकमिन चाचा ने.
अच्छा.
और इससे पहले सिर्फ हिंदू मिठाई चलती थी.
अच्छा.
लड्डू, पेड़े इस तरह से. और नाश्ते में सिर्फ एक बड़ा ट्रेडिशनल सा नाश्ता चलता था जिसको दास कुलचा कहते हैं. वो टिपिकली हिंदू नाश्ता था, वेजिटेरियन.
अच्छा.
तो जब मेरे दादाजी ने मैट्रिक पास किया उस दौर में, तो मेरे परदादा ने, चूँकि वो टी कंट्रैक्टर थे, ब्रिटिश आर्मी की, तो उन्होंने उनसे मशवरा लिया. तो उन्होंने कहा कि जी इसको बेकरी का काम सिखाएं. अच्छा. क्योंकि ये बिल्कुल एक न्यूली एक सब्जेक्ट था और न्यूली इंट्रोड्यूस हो रहा था.
उनको किसने सिखाया?
लेडी एचसन, जो गवर्नर जनरल की बेगम थी.
अच्छा.
जिनके नाम पे ये लेडी एचसन हॉस्पिटल और एचसन कॉलेज है. शी वॉज मेंटोर. और उनसे ही सारी इंस्पिरेशन ली, उनसे ही वो, क्योंकि ये ब्रिटिश ओरिजिन है बेकरी.
जी जी जी. और आपका जो सबसे ज़्यादा मशहूर कन्फेक्शनरी है वो क्या है?
हमारा जी रिच प्लम केक है जी. और फिर इसी तरह फिंगर बिस्किट्स हैं. हाँ. जो एक ब्रिटिश लेडी की इंस्पिरेशन है. शी वॉज वाइस प्रिंसिपल ऑफ म्यू स्कूल ऑफ आर्ट एंड आफ्टरवर्ड्स इट्स नोन एज NCA. रेसिपी है हमारी खताई, पुरानी रेसिपी है.
खताई की कोई हिस्ट्री क्या है, आप बता सकते हैं?
देखिए जी, खताई जो मॉडिफाइड फॉर्म है कुलचे की, जिसको हम लाहौरी जो लोग हैं खंड कुलचा कहते हैं. इन दैट एरा इट वाज मेड एट तवा, या ये जो तंदूर होता है लकड़ी वाला, उसमें बनाते थे.
और खताई का मतलब क्या है?
खताई का मतलब ही वो चीज़ जो आप बहुत स्वीट हो. अच्छा. और उसको आप ओवन में बेक करें.
तो ये हमारी रवायती है.
जी रवायती.
दिस इज नॉट अंग्रेजी.
नो नो नो, नॉट अंग्रेजी.
तो ये जो हमारी आबादी है इर्द गिर्द, उन आपके ख्याल में उनकी क्यूरियोसिटी है कि कोई रवायती मीठे हैं, वो तो उनको पता है.
बिल्कुल है.
मगर जो अंग्रेजी है वो भी कभी कभी बिस्किट के तहत और केक के तहत
बिल्कुल जी
उनको पता है. मगर ये जो अगर हम फ्यूजन करें, डू यू थिंक दे वुड बी एबल टू allow themselves?
No, क्योंकि एक टिपिकल वो माइंड ये है कि मिठाई में मैम ये है कि आप उसको रिसाइकिल कर सकते हैं, बट नॉट इन बेकरी. इसका मटेरियल, इसके इंग्रेडिएंट ऐसे हैं कि आप इसको रिसाइकलिंग नहीं कर सकते इन एनी फॉर्म.
So it's a socio-economic thing as well.
And it is perishable item. इसकी शेल्फ लाइफ है.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome जी. It's my pleasure जी. Thank you. God bless you जी.
In the 21st century, fusion is the norm. Hence, what can be our possible fusion versions of, say, gulab jamun or a halwa? For this very important question, who better than to ask Ammar Mumtaz, Pakistan's most promising confectionery chef, also the owner of Burning Brownie Cafe, a landmark Islamabad haunt. start with brownies? You started with cupcakes.
Yeah, with cupcakes, yeah. Having gotten the chance to work with some of the best chefs in the world, it just opens up a lot of things for you.
What can we do with our mithai, which is risky?
See, mithai is something like you can sort of, the first thing like I would do is kind of deconstruct something. Most of the mithai, like they're two ingredients, right? It's desi ghee or it's khoya, which is reduced milk. So you break them up and then you see what you can do. Like for instance, we haven't even, like obviously there's some innovation, like for instance you get chocolate barfi.
Yes.
However, but it's still barfi, like you don't get that chocolate in it, it's just the color, and you can't just say we haven't moved on to the future.
Is that based on taste or is that based on market, you know?
No, I mean it's taste comes in later, but then obviously it's the market as well, because we're very young. There's not a lot of exposure. At the end of the day, you need to understand what we're having, we'll always have it at our homes. But when you go out and have desi food, you want it to be different from what you've had.
So I had a chance recently to visit Mokuddin, an old bakery in Lahore. In his opinion, he thought our desserts and the European desserts shall never meet, you know. And so it was kind of depressing because we are sitting in a lovely cafe here, and in many of our urban centers we drink coffee, you know, we have biscuits, we have cake. And when will we have a combination which is like, I'm having a cake but it's giving me my desi pana?
See, I mean, that's the thing, like for someone like him, he's grown up to an idea where he's been taught to do things a certain way, and because that certain way is working for him, he doesn't want to change, and that's the problem in our society. Like we because again, it comes down to there's lack of exposure. Not there is a niche that wants to kind of turn your that wants to upgrade the culinary industry or the culinary field within the country to a rather more contemporary one. Food has come a long way, you know, and the thing is, like, just to give you an example, you talked about biscuits. The recipe might be the same that was like say 200-300 years ago, but the flour has changed. The sort of sugar that they use has changed. So everything has evolved. You know, like when I started off, the only flour that I could think of was an all-purpose flour. And now I have like over 10 varieties of flours that I have a flour that's specific to making shortbreads. I have a flour that's specific to making sure that the texture of the cake is different, is lighter, or so all these things.
Are these ingredients
Yeah,
available in Pakistan?
No, you have to get them from abroad. But
Okay, so let's pick two really typical, well-known desi desserts.
Okay.
One is gulab jamun,
Yeah.
and one is gajar ka halwa. Let's start with, what's the difference between gajar ka halwa and gajrela?
Now the thing is, they're so similar. It's just the difference is one has milk, the other one is a dry concoction of different things. So
it's texture and taste.
No, yeah, it's definitely is texture and taste, but at the same time, you know, gajrela, because of that milk, it has a completely separate identity.
What is gulab jamun, and how could you, and what would you do with it to bring a new flavor profile or a textural profile for the Pakistani audience?
See, I would just say gulab jamun is it's like a fried dough ball, and that's made out of khoya milk powder. However, for me, I would always look at gulab jamun because as a textural thing rather than a flavored thing. Why? Because all the flavor that you get within a gulab jamun, that comes from the syrup that you put in it. Yeah, you feel you can do so much better. I mean, a simple way would be just to change the syrup. So say from saffron and cardamom, you can change that into maybe orange blossom water. and all of a sudden you have a gulab jamun that is a gulab jamun, but it's completely different now.
What are you going to do with gulab jamun for us today?
We can either have like a gulab jamun, use it the way it is, and create something around it that completely transforms it into
using plus.
Yeah.
And then there's another way of like
getting the texture in something completely different. If I did not know, or if you hadn't told me that the fact that the chili is not something that's
not local,
I would have, I mean, anyone would grow up with the idea chili is so subcontinent.
so it is now, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, because if knowing the history
Yes.
would actually tell you that, you know, a lot of the things that we're doing or the cuisine that we call our own,
That's right.
there's so many elements within that cuisine that are not ours. There's some desserts that are specifically, they originate from these small areas and they stay there. They don't come into the mainstream. So
Can you mention a
so
few?
like one of the things that I really, something that I've worked with a lot is, it's called doda. It's
Doda.
from, yeah, it's apparently it's from Khushab. And it's basically cooked milk, caramelized milk, turned into this really gooey kind of, you can call it a mithai, but I don't know whether that's the right word for it. And that's for some reason works so well with so many different foreign recipes.
And you've used doda?
Yeah. I mean, there's a chef that I really admire, Manish Malhotra.
Okay,
And yeah, he created something he called the Doda Barfi Treacle Tart.
What would you do with a khatai?
I would use it as a base to something else. Like, you know, if I want to do something, so say if I was to do a mousse, a sort of a mousse that when you take a bite, it just disappears. Instead of using something like a crumble or something, I would rather use a khatai because that complemented, because you don't expect the textural part to just disappear. You want it to be there, but then again, if you put it in, you get that crunch, but at the same time, it's gone.
In the northern areas or even in the Kohat belt areas, we have something called nishasta. So it is naturally sprouted wheat which sweeten.
Okay.
And from that flour, they make, you know, a halwa or steam pudding in the northern areas.
Okay.
Steam pudding, dhiram pitti, which is in fact, they don't use mithai in the northern areas. They use this.
I'm from Attak, and one of the really famous things over there is what they call cheer ka halwa.
Before we end, you work very closely with chocolate.
Okay, so the chocolate that we generally have, most of it isn't even chocolate. I mean, like if you look at the local stuff, that's all compound chocolate. That's cocoa powder mixed with hydrogenated oils to give you like something similar to chocolate.
Okay.
And if you look at
the
all,
taste, they're trying to get you to taste.
no, it's not even the taste. It's just a cheap. It's cheaper to use hydrogenated oils or to kind of get, because the thing is, chocolate is cocoa butter,
Okay.
cocoa powder, or what you would call cocoa mass, a combination of both chocolate liquor and sugar. That's it,
Okay.
and maybe a stabilizer. And you talked about janjuja. It's basically hazelnut paste or hazelnuts mixed into chocolate. There's a certain, normally I would say around 30% hazelnut, 70% chocolate. But how we see chocolate, it's very different from what really chocolate is. I mean, because the chocolate itself, like just like wine or coffee, the flavor of the chocolate depends on the region or the plantation it's coming from.
Can we grow chocolate in
But
Pakistan?
no, it can only grow, but I
see.
think it's 10 degrees above and below the equator. That's the only area where it'll grow. And it needs to grow under the shade of those tall rainforest trees.
So now, for example, jandua, which is hazelnut combined with a base chocolate, is it possible to have like some of our nuts, you know, which are
Oh yeah, you can
walnuts
do
and
anything as long as
pine nuts combined
Yeah,
with chocolate.
yeah. But
have people tried that?
yes, people have tried it, but not in a form of chocolate, but in form of ganaches.
Okay.
See, you need to understand that sometimes the options are great, but whether it's going to work or not, that's something completely different. What I've been really trying to do is somehow infuse flowers and coffee. You could use lavender. So what you do is you get some freeze-dried lavender, and you throw it in a melanger, which is a sort of, again, the machine is very subcontinent, but it's been used to make chocolate. It's an old way of doing it. It's basically two granite wheels, sort of grinding the chocolate down to a certain micron level. One of my favorite things is like to kind of combine cardamom with caramel. It's like orange is like everywhere,
Yes.
you know, and it's like, but we don't really use some of these ingredients to an extent that we should, because you wouldn't find something specifically orange in any of our local desserts. Like say, when we talk about Methai, you won't have anything that's orange.
You're right. Because the Methai tradition comes from east of the Indus. For example, rhubarb,
Yeah.
you know, which is a vegetable,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
treated as a fruit.
yeah.
And we associate that with European desserts.
Yep.
But it grows wild in Chitral and to some extent in Balochistan as well.
But see, because of the fact that we don't get that produced out
Yes.
in the mass market,
That's right.
most people would never even know about it. To overcome that, you know, you have to have the availability of all these different ingredients. What we call our cuisine is generally, for the masses, is just about Punjabi cuisine. We'll only be able to do that once we get an idea of the complete cuisine or the picture of the complete cuisine within the
Yes.
country, and that's where you come in to kind of put it up.
So on that note,
Yeah.
let's go
Yeah.
and see and experiment how you convert gulab jamun and gajrela gajar ka halwa into something yummylicious.
Done. Let's
Here
do
we go.
it. Yeah.
Hi Ammar.
Hello, how are you?
I'm so excited.
So yeah, we're gonna be making a lot of things today.
How to make chocolate?
Yeah. There we go.
This side. Step 1, cocoa nibs and sugar cane in a blender.
Yep.
And how much sugar cane? You
250 grams.
250 grams. Is that sugar?
What we're using is, it's kind of like what we would call demerara sugar, which is slightly less processed white sugar. So this, I'm going to add this to this as well.
So you're adding the freeze-dried raspberries.
Yeah, because I'm going to do a chocolate that tastes like raspberry.
You will then
Heat it.
Heat it?
Yeah, 55 degrees. So
Mm,
we're,
the aroma is
yeah.
lovely.
So halfway through, it's still not done as yet, but you can smell it. So we're gonna make sure that it's completely liquid. Yeah, that's
More liquid.
the liquid bit is the cocoa butter, the cocoa beans
Opening.
really, yeah. So I'm fine as long as it stays below 55.
It's gritty.
Yeah, for now. So this is cocoa butter that I'm adding. So ये देखें, see it's gone.
It's totally liquid.
Yeah. Can be used to make any kind of nut butter, any kind of powdered spice.
Our next recipe is
It's the deconstructed gajrela.
Okay, so
However, what we're going to be doing first is to make the sauce. And for the sauce is really easy. It's just like any other sticky sauce. All you need to do is put all the ingredients in the pan, boil it for at least 3 minutes, and sieve it, and that's it. It's ready. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Thermomix because it's I find it to be a lot more easier and makes a lot less mess. So see, I'm going to put all the ingredients. So what I did was I put in the cardamom, light brown sugar, maple syrup, dark muscovado sugar. The muscovado, I want to put dark for the color. I want something very dark, you know.
So you use 2 kinds of sugar?
Yeah, light brown and dark muscovado. I'm not quite sure what muscovado is in Urdu, but it's close to gur. Okay, one thing that could be done in this, I'm using sugar, but if somebody wants to put in gur, so yeah, you can do that as well. It's going to melt down. So this is the butter. Now the thing is, I'd actually recommend using brown butter for this if you want to add a lot. This is cream. So all of this in the Thermomix. And all I'm going to do is set the temperature at almost 120. You'll see it getting really, really dark as it cooks. Yeah, it's doing fine. We're just going to cook it a bit more. Yeah, you get that?
You can really taste the cardamom. Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the butter. 125 grams.
This is melted butter.
Yep. Brown sugar. And a bit of vanilla. Vanilla is like, I mean, it's not necessary, but if you want, I like a bit of vanilla. Yeah, just a teaspoon. We're just gonna mix it. Okay, so if you smell this, it smells like gulab jamun. So that's because of the brown butter, slightly brown butter, clarified butter, light brown sugar. So depending on the amount of brown butter I want to add to it, I can actually kind of get my texture as close to a gulab jamun. So I'm going to add eggs now.
Pasteurized.
Yeah, pasteurized egg. These are not necessary because it's going to bake anyways. So it's not like you're going to have them raw. So now I'm going to add the yogurt. The yogurt is just there to keeping it moist. I mean, if you don't want to use yogurt, that's perfectly fine. You can kind of use milk, but yogurt works better. And this is reduced milk. This is just for flavoring. So now I'm going to put in the gajar ka halwa. See, you've seen a gajrela, right?
Yes.
So now if I was to add more milk to it, that's sort of like a gajrela texture. Okay, now the most important bit, the salt. And this is where a lot of home bakers kind of go wrong, is how they incorporate the flour into the
Baking soda.
into the batter itself, because you don't want to over mix it.
But you added the baking soda then, right?
Yeah, I just mixed in the baking soda into the flour. The flour has already been whisked up.
And you put it in slowly.
Yeah,
And how, you were saying that most people get what wrong?
the mixing of flour in the batter.
And what is it that they usually do?
They over mix it, which makes
Overmix
the
it. So by over mixing it, what happens?
you develop gluten, and that creates a very tough structure, or makes a very dry, crumbly cake. So what we're going to do is put them in the oven at 150 degrees for almost around 15 minutes. You can touch it and see the
Like a sponge.
yeah, but like a very delicate sponge, and it's just gonna see if I open it. So the texture is just like a gajar ka halwa. So now we're gonna make the ice cream.
Ammar, so we have 1 liter of milk,
Yep.
and when you cook it on medium heat,
Over a long period of time, it takes around 2 hours, an hour and a half.
Okay.
This is what you get.
this is what we get,
Yep.
which is basically
Yeah,
reduced
it's milk.
milk.
Yeah,
then-
that's just about to turn into khoya. Okay, so then what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this reduced milk
Yes.
with some cream, a little bit more milk, and sugar. The reduced milk was infused with cardamom to get the flavor going, and we'll also need 2 eggs for texture and stability. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we'll make a custard. So we can cook it up to 85 degrees and then sieve it. Once you've sieved the final base, you want to use a hand blender to kind of homogenize it and mix it all together and let it sit in the fridge for at least a day to kind of get the flavors going.
This is that.
Yeah, this is that. So this is our ice cream base, the khoya ice cream base. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start making the ice cream. What we're going to use is we're going to use liquid nitrogen. We don't want any ice crystals at all, and we want a really nice, clean, smooth finish to the ice cream.
And how much liquid nitrogen?
It depends. I'm probably going to be using around 500 grams. So see, it's already freezing. So I'm going to just use a blowtorch to kind of get. Yeah, because I want the temperature to be the same all around. I want to add some air to it, you know. I don't want it to be like very, very rich. So this is like a soft serve right now. The texture is like a soft serve. Soft serve ice cream. You can try it.
Yeah.
And these are caramelized nuts.
What's a tonka bean?
It has very bitter almond sort of a flavor. The people say it's the new vanilla. That should work.
This just is too divine, Ammar. Heaven. Amazing. Ammar, this is just incredible.
Thank you. Glad you
so
liked
much.
it.
What is that?
This is crumble. This is the almond crumble. So I'm going to put some of the liquid in this.
I hope you enjoyed this fusion recipes by Maestro Ammar.
Ammar has taken our traditional dessert ingredients and reconstructed it into a fusion dessert. Here he has taken a khatai and made it into a crumble, cardamom sauce over a doda pie. His homemade chocolate is converted into a beautiful soil, beautifully accompanied with chai ice cream, a perfect modernization of Pakistani dessert with a traditional flavor palette.
Go check out more wonderful desserts at Burning Brownie, and hopefully this will spur more innovators in the confectionery landscape in Pakistan. Until next time, Khuda Hafiz.